Kicking it through the uprights, hold tight. Amazing stories, feeling stories, out of sight. Jaw-dropping tales, just surreal thrills. They're always unreal. Kicking through the uprights, the legend seals the deal.
Well, welcome from Linwood, Washington. This is Kicking It Through the Uprights, episode number 5. And I want to welcome all of you to this beautiful city here in the state of Washington, just north of Seattle. This is Tom's Tall Tales and True Stories, episode number 5. And I want to introduce to you, and the reason we're here is to celebrate the retirement after 51 years of working for NOAA. My brother Richard, who's here to my right, and he last night had his retirement party, and it was a magnificent retirement party. You're going to see clips of it in a little bit. But we all gathered here. So let me introduce the people that are here today. These are my brothers. These are the 3 men in my life that have been closest to me throughout my entire life. And I think we have a very unique relationship. We're not just brothers, but we're all really close friends. And even if we live in different parts of the country, we have remained extremely close throughout our lives. So to my far right is my brother Pat. Say hello, Pat.
Hello.
And Pat had recently, just yesterday, I think, celebrated his 81st birthday. So he's the senior member of this group of the foursome here. Next to my right is my brother Richard. We call him Dick, formerly known as Dr. Richard Feely. Heard that many times last night. So say hello, Dick.
Hello, everyone.
All right, and then to my left is my youngest brother, Dan. Dan is from Plymouth, Minnesota, and he's retired now, but he had a very long career as a physician.
Family doc.
Family doctor.
I want to say hi to all 10 viewers of this podcast.
Oh, you're funny. You're funny. You think it's that many? It's only if we all watch it.
That includes us 4.
That's what I meant. Then there's got to be at least 6 more somewhere. Okay, so with that, let's get started. By the way, I did mention we're going to show you some clips from last night's dinner, and we all got to speak. So I'm going to just show you clips from our speeches, because there was also 2.5 hours of other people's speeches as well, all there to celebrate Richard's career, an amazing career that he's had. And we're going to get into his career in a little bit later in this podcast. But so here we are. We're here to celebrate Richard, and I'm going to start with you. Okay.
Yep.
I want you to give everybody just a little sense of your 51 career years.
All right. I grew up in Minnesota with my 3 brothers in St. Paul, and we all went to the same college together, College of St. Thomas, where my dad was a professor and a basketball and baseball coach. So I went to Texas A&M, where I got a PhD in chemical oceanography and graduated in 1974, and I immediately went to NOAA when NOAA was just forming its oceanographic research laboratories. And I got there in 1974, and our laboratory had just started in October of 1973. So I was there at the very beginning, and my job was to start a chemical oceanography program in NOAA, which they did not have at that point in time. So there was no laboratory or anything, and we had to start it from scratch. And I was very, very fortunate over the years to be able to work with some of the premier scientists throughout the world to begin to understand how carbon dioxide released from fossil fuel production enters into the atmosphere and then exchanges from the atmosphere to the oceans. And that uptake of carbon dioxide into the ocean is what cools the Earth. And the Earth is at least a half a degree cooler because of that attack of carbon dioxide in the ocean. Right now, about 25% of all the carbon dioxide is released in the atmosphere is taken up by the oceans. And it was my job to figure out where it goes. That's what I did for the last 40 years.
And this impacts our climates.
It has a direct impact to climate because the carbon dioxide is what drives the climate change that we see. And the ocean's role in determining how much carbon dioxide is in the atmosphere is very pivotal. If it wasn't for the oceans, carbon dioxide concentrations in the atmosphere would be 90 microatmospheres higher. It began in the pre-industrial at 278 microatmospheres. Now it's 420. But if it wasn't for the oceans, it would be well over 500. And that directly affects the heating of the Earth.
Okay.
And because of the changes that we have observed in the atmosphere, the Earth is now 1.5 degrees warmer than it was in the pre-industrial period.
Now, to the average person, 1.5 degrees warmer doesn't sound very alarming. To put that into true perspective.
Okay, so remember, this is a global average. So there are areas in the Earth where it's much, much warmer than that. For example, the Arctic is warming 5 times more than anywhere else on the planet. And that means melting of ice. That means sea level rise. Sea level rise is flooding cities like Miami and New York. And when you have severe storms, that seawater comes in and floods the whole region like a hurricane. All this is accentuated by global warming. And our hurricanes themselves are much more intense and have much more rainfall because of the changes in climate. And in the West Coast, major area that we were concerned about, we have fires, and those fires are very directly impacted by that 1.5 degree change in our region, because again, on land, it warms much faster than it does in the oceans. So when the land dries out and you have droughts, there's more of a tendency to have forest fires.
Okay. If you in the audience had an opportunity to have been at his retirement party last night, and you had a chance to hear all of these amazing scientists from all over the nation who have worked with Dick throughout the 51 years and tell their stories about the impact that my brother here has had on them and on the whole knowledge base regarding climate change, regarding the impacts of the things he's talking about. If you had a chance to have been there and heard what they had to say, you'd understand the authority that the person to my right actually has, the knowledge base, because these were the top scientists in the nation, and they were all praising my brother here, Richard, as the mentor to all of them, as the one who helped lead them further on and encourage them and contribute to the knowledge base that we have. So, it's really amazing and honor to have my own brother here be someone who's had such a huge, significant impact on our world, not just on our nation, but on the entire planet. So we're going to get back to your story. I know you have a couple of stories to tell. We're going to get back to that in a second, but I want to bring in Pat here to the discussion. And Pat, just real quickly, just tell all of us a little about your career, because I know you've had a significant career, not in science, but a very significant career nonetheless.
Well, I was an educator. I went to the same school as all the rest of us, St. Thomas, and then I started teaching social studies in Minneapolis and coaching 3 different sports in Minneapolis, and I did that for 14 years, and then I was asked to become a principal. I became a principal in Minneapolis on the north side. They wouldn't let principals coach. They thought it was a conflict of interest. So I began coaching out in my community where I live, out in Burnsville, Minnesota, and I coached 27 more years at Burnsville High School, and fast pitch softball, basketball, and tennis, girls high school tennis. And I finished my coaching career. I was a principal for 14 or 16 years and retired, but continued to coach in my community at the high school for another 27 years. So total, I coached high school teams for 52 years. And then when I finally retired from coaching, I retired from high school administration and teaching after 30 years. And then I retired from coaching after 52 years. And now I'm doing a lot of different volunteer jobs.
Okay. And Pat really understates his career when he says he's coaching for X number of years, which in itself is an amazing feat to be doing what he loves for that long. Because it's reason it's an understatement because he's leaving out the successes that he had. You've been inducted into several Hall of Fames. One Hall of Fame as an athlete and another Hall of Fame for your coaching contributions. So tell us a little more about some of those accolades.
Well, I was fortunate to be able to develop a strong high school fast pitch girls program in a very strong and stiff conference that we were in. So we won. I was head coach for 13 years before I retired the first time, and we won 7 conference championships and 1 consolation state championship and 2 state championships. So that was pretty fun, and then I loved coaching girls high school tennis. I had 3 different state champions. One reason I loved it the most, it was a fall sport, and always coached in shorts and a t-shirt. Never got cold. And basketball, my kids grew up playing basketball, so I was able to coach them before they got to high school, and then I just continued to help out with the high school program in basketball.
Now, Burnsville, where you coached for a long time, and they inducted you into their Hall of Fame, you won some state championships there.
Yeah, I did. I won a 9th grade basketball state championship. I won 2 state championships in fast pitch softball, and I had 3 tennis players that won state championships.
Yeah. So his career as a coach has been amazing. He was a solid, as we all have heard many times, a solid administrator, a great teacher, and just a great motivator. And I know all of us came from a family where our father was a legendary coach at College of St. Thomas in St. Paul. He coached basketball and baseball, was head coach in both sports, served a time as an athletic director. So we came from a very athletic background. Pat chose his career field to kind of follow in that same direction, but going into education and coaching. And he was kind of like my role model. I followed Pat's lead like all along the way. We both taught social studies for a time until we moved up to other positions. We both stayed with coaching for over 50 years. And so that was in our DNA. My other 2 brothers, Richard and Daniel, followed the sciences. And so they went in a little different direction. But at the same time, we all were very athletic. And we'll talk about that some more. But we were all very athletic all the way into college. And Pat was even an All-American in football. And so we all had athletic careers. And that was another part of our binding. It was also part of our upbringing because we were playing against each other at home all the time. So let me introduce to you my brother on my left, Daniel. And Daniel is, like we said, he was a physician his whole life. Come on in a little closer, Dan, everybody can see you.
There you go.
Okay, so Dan, tell us what you want them to know about your career.
Well, I went to St. Thomas just like you guys. I graduated in '80, and then went to Creighton Medical School in Omaha, Nebraska. From there, I went to residency, which was back in the cities, North Memorial, which is in Robbinsdale, Minnesota. Spent 3 years as a resident. Joined a practice that actually went to North Memorial and hospitalized patients at North Memorial. Back in those days, we would do our own rounds at the hospital. So we would put people into the hospital, we'd round on them, we'd discharge them. Then we went back to the clinic and had a full 20, 25 patients we'd see. So it was crazy back then. And I was, the clinic was private to start out with when I joined it, and then we ended up getting bought out by North Memorial Hospital, and so they bought us out and moved us to Golden Valley, and so then that's where I retired at Golden Valley. So it was about 35 years with the same practice essentially, and about 30 of those years I was the lead physician, which meant I was involved with a lot of administrative stuff too. And I saw a lot of changes over the years in medicine, a lot of changes, and it was very hard to retire because of the relationships with my colleagues and with patients. It's hard to, you see these patients, you see maybe every 3 months some patients, and then boom, it just kind of ends. So it's a hard thing to retire, I think, as far as medicine goes. Although with a lot of the changes that are happening in medicine, I'm kind of relieved I don't have to deal with a lot of that stuff.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
I think every day I'm glad I'm no longer working in the schools now, because it's a lot tougher now than it was when I was during my career.
Yeah, and of course, the end of my career, a lot of the COVID stuff was happening, and that was really difficult to deal with, especially at the beginning when it was unknown what kind of virus it was and what it would do. So, but yeah, now I'm retired and enjoying life.
Yeah. When I started my coaching career, my first coaching job was at the high school that we all attended, St. Thomas Academy. And so while I was in college, I was coaching at the academy in wrestling. And it happened that my brother here was right at the right age, freshman in high school, as I started doing that. And so I got a chance to coach him, to teach him to wrestle. Then he ended up going on to wrestle all through college. So he just, really took off in that particular sport. And I think it had a big impact, because even your own sons went on and wrestled as well through high school.
Tino Grace.
Yeah.
I remember you were coaching and I was having trouble making weight, so you had me come to your house, and for dinner you gave me an orange.
Well, you got to make sure your mom kept pushing pizza on you, so I had to make sure that you didn't eat the pizza the night before the wrestling match. So this is Tom's Tall Tales and True Stories, and we're really emphasizing the true stories part today. So I'm going to go back to my brother Richard right now and ask him, what is the one story from your career that impacted your personal life or made a big impact on you? What's the one story that you want to share?
Well, there are a lot of stories. This family always has a lot of stories.
We do.
But one in particular was when we were in our early part of our career. We were looking at deep sea processes in the bottom of the ocean, and we went to regions where there were hydrothermal venting along deep sea spreading centers, and this was off the coast of Washington and Oregon. And we would take a submersible called Alvin down to the bottom, essentially the crest of a mountainside, and into a valley where the vents were spewing out hydrothermal
Now,
water.
how deep are we talking?
This is about a mile and a half below the surface.
A mile and a half below the surface, which is why you needed a specialized vehicle to get there.
Yes, this submersible had a pilot and then 2 observers. So we each had our own window to the outside, so we could see what was going on outside. We had the vessel itself had a titanium sphere that we were in that was 5 inches thick, and that's what held out the pressure, the great pressure from there. That had plexiglass windows. Those plexiglass windows were 6 inches thick, and that's what we got to look out of. And our job was to find these hydrothermal vents, collect samples with mechanical arms. I went and grabbed a sample of either the water or the chimney or the animals. We put them all into a basket, and that basket that we brought to the surface, and all the scientists were on the ship. They would bring the vessel onto the ship, and they would collect each of the samples. And these were very exciting times because every biological sample that we got, it was an animal that was discovered for the first time on Earth at that time.
These were these worm-like creatures.
Right, exactly. And they were utilizing the chemicals that were spewing out from the hydrothermal vents into the water as a source of energy.
And how hot is this environment that they're thriving in?
Yes, the waters that got up to about 400 degrees C, and so
Celsius. Remember, this is a non-science podcast here, so you gotta speak English here. So in Fahrenheit, what would be the temperature?
Probably about 700 degrees C, degrees Fahrenheit. And so then we would have to have specialized equipment. The water was so hot. When we first started collecting samples, we would melt our equipment. So then we had to develop titanium samplers that could withstand those hot temperatures. Now, obviously, the pressures is what made sure that the water still was in liquid form because of the high pressure. If that was water at the surface, it would just completely vaporize immediately. And so we brought these titanium bottles into the water that's flowing out. It had a temperature sensor there. We drew the water into our bottles, put them back in the basket. Then we go use manipulators to get the animals and then get parts of the chimneys. So I was on the expedition that had the first discovery of these hydrothermal vents on the Wanderfuca Ridge and Endeavor Ridge. I was there with Alex Malhoff, the 2 scientists. And I was the last person on the last dive to go and see these vents with Alex Malhoff. Together, he and I did that. And that's when we discovered the biggest vent that we've ever seen at that time. And we were down there. So this was the last dive. And we were down there and then we were sampling. And we were very, very excited because we really got the great samples and got them into the box. And we were really going great guns and sampling. And the chief pilot calls us up and says, you have to stop everything and come to the surface right away because there's 50-knot winds at the surface and we're getting a great storm and we're afraid we will not be able to pull you back on board the ship.
You're 1.5 miles deep?
Yes.
Or more, or so.
No, about a mile.
About 1.5 miles deep. There's probably no light down there.
No,
deep.
Other than lights from the submarine.
Other than the lights you produce. Okay. But there's no light, but 1.5 miles, that's so hard to fathom. I used to scuba dive, and the deepest I ever got was 100 feet deep.
Right.
And that was deep. You didn't stay down there very long because, you couldn't. We're talking 7,000 feet deep, and in an environment nobody's ever been before.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the ship up above, which you're tethered to, I assume, or maybe you're not tethered, but
you're not tethered.
You're not tethered to them, but you're at least communicating with them.
You're communicating with them, but they have to come to you and bring a rope down, and that rope has to go around the top of the submarine and pull the submarine back onto the
And
ship.
so they're experiencing a severe storm.
Right. An enormous storm.
Okay, which puts you in jeopardy as well, down 1.5 miles deep. So go ahead.
So we're down there and we said, we're sampling all this water. We can't leave now. We just finally got the samples. What do you want to? Said, no, you have to come right now because the storm is still building. So we decided that we have to do that because the chief pilot has say over everything. He's the chief safety officer. So we decided to pull things together as quick as good. We get rising to the surface. Now, when the sub rises, they have to drop their weights because they have to be neutrally buoyant. So in order to rise, they have to drop their weights, and they drop their weights to the bottom, and then the sub begins to rise to the top. So we're coming for now. We're about 2,000 meters, and then we're coming down to 1,000 meters. We're coming down to 500, and we'll get to about 500 meters at
500 meters from the surface.
From the surface. And when we get there, I looked around and I said, well, why is there water on the inside of the sphere that we're in? And the pilot looked at me and said, oh, that's normal. That's condensation of water because we're so cold down there. We're in very cold
and you're
water.
breathing.
And we're breathing,
Yeah,
and everything is condensing on the sphere. So he felt that was very normal. So being a chemist, I go and touch the water, and I lick the water. And I said, well, then explain to me, why is the water salty?
Oh my God.
And
He had no answer for that.
Just about the time that I said that, all the lights and power went out on the sub. We had no power, no lights, completely pitch dark. And we're still rising to the surface.
How far are you now from the surface?
Now we're about 300 meters from the surface, and it's still pitch dark. And we're coming up like this, and we're now beginning to see the first instances of light from above penetrating down into the water. So we're looking at that, and that's the light that we're using. And we still, all the instruments are dead, can't see.
Your instruments are dead, and you don't have the ability to power
Nope.
your vehicle to go take it somewhere.
No.
You are literally just hoping that it rises to the surface.
So then,
Do you still have communications with the surface at all? Is that out too?
yeah, yes, it was out. It was out.
So you lost contact
Yeah.
with the ship above.
Yeah, so
Wow.
so then we get to be about 100 meters from the surface, and all of a sudden the sub is starting to rock back and forth like this, starting to rock. And as we rise more and more, it's rocking more and more because it's feeling the storm.
Ah.
And it's going like this and rocking. And, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to throw up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're so scared that you don't, because you're too scared about what's going to happen next. And so we rise to the surface, and sure enough, at the surface was going like this and like this, back and forth. And the ship had to come to us. We couldn't motor to the ship. The ship had to come to us. They had to get the divers to put the rope over the ship, over the sub, and then pull it out of the water through this big stanchion that's holding all the weight of the submarine through there, and then onto the ship. And this stanchion that's holding it, we're now going like this, back and forth like this, and rocking like this, and we hit the stanchion on the left-hand side, and we hit the stanchion on the right-hand side, and all our samples go to the bottom of the ocean.
Oh my goodness.
All the samples.
All the samples you collected?
Went by the bottom of the ocean.
Oh.
First samples that we ever collected.
Oh, it gotta have been heartbreaking.
It was just unbelievable, unbelievable.
Wow.
And so that we finally get it to settle down onto the ship, and we get it on the ship, and we're all in misery, and we're just very upset and just glad to be alive. And I asked the pilot, what happened here? What happened? He said, well, we finally figured out that seawater was leaking through one of the cables that go from the outside of the sub to the inside of the sub, and it shorted out all the electricity in there, but seawater was coming in along with it.
In the Alvin?
In the Alvin.
In the Alvin. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
I said, we ever had a problem like this before? And they said, no, we didn't have a problem. We never had a problem like this before. So we were experiencing the first problem like that. Well, if we had not left the bottom of the ocean and the power went out at the bottom of the ocean, we would never have been able to drop the weights because that's an electronic process.
Oh,
So we
sure.
would never have come to the surface.
But no way to get you back.
And then be no way to rescue you, I would assume
Oh,
also.
no, that would be it. Just
Yeah.
just
So
like
there's no
that.
tether from the
Yeah.
ship to you.
Yeah,
No.
no, nothing. So we got on board ship, and I told this story to my wife when I got back home, and she says, "Well, you're never going out on Alvin again." I said, "Oh, yes, I am."
Yeah,
I loved
no
it.
doubt.
I
no
love
doubt.
the experience.
Yeah. How many times did you go?
I went on 2 dives on the Pisces, which is a Canadian submersible. I went on several dives in following years on Alvin, a total of 6 dives total.
6?
And, just tremendous experiences all the time. Everything you're doing, you're discovering for the first time.
Yeah.
What happens if you have to go to the bathroom?
Practical question.
All right, so...
They wear diapers.
No, they, it's really kind of, you have this bottle, and it's like an old time milk bottle. It's about a little more than a pint, maybe close to a quart. And each one gets a bottle. And when you go onto the sub, you're going on at about 8 o'clock in the morning. And so the last thing you do before you do anything else is you go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then you get on the sub, and you got this bottle in there, and you don't want to do it because you're going to embarrass yourself. You know,
Yeah.
I was on a dive with a woman one time, and I had to go to the bathroom there, so it's a kind of embarrassing thing. But everybody treats you,
Well, anybody's gone fishing has had the same problem.
Yeah.
So
I think the
big
diaper
issue,
would be better.
the
Wouldn't
big
diaper be
issue is
better
you
than a
don't
bottle?
want to fill up the bottle too high, right?
Yeah.
So you have to control yourself a little bit, and you put the bottle in, put it aside. And then when you come out of the sub, you're supposed to bring the bottle with you. That's your responsibility. You're supposed to dump anything.
You don't want to just
you-
leave it in
So
the
you're
sub
treating
for the
everybody
next.
about these scientific discoveries holding your urine. Huh?
Yeah. So if you forget to bring the bottle, they take the bottle and they bring it to the dinner table. Set it on the dinner table. It's like, did you forget something? And that happened.
I bet.
Didn't happen to me,
Yeah.
but it happened.
So being a scientist isn't all about just being in a laboratory and writing down notes and looking at microscopes and stuff like that. You actually, at least in your field, you've actually had some pretty significant adventures.
Oh, these were great adventures.
Yeah.
These were great adventures. There's one other time we were on the submarine and we were on the Juan de Fuca Ridge. Now, the Juan de Fuca Ridge, remember, this is a spreading center. So you got 2 mountains that are going like this. And so there's a valley in between. And at the bottom of the valley is where all the venting occurs. So you're trying to bring the submarine into the valley with these huge walls on either side of you, and they're straight walls straight up.
This is in the Pacific Ocean.
Yes, yeah, it's on the Juan de Fuca Ridge,
Near
which is
what?
just off the coast of Oregon.
Of where?
Off of the coast of Oregon.
Oregon. Okay.
Yeah. And
It's a state. Yeah. You ever heard of Oregon?
so we were bringing the submarine and coming down in between these narrow walls, and you had to bring the submarine down and go down to the bottom and collect. In this case, we're collecting the organisms because there's a big deal about the tuberns are really beautiful there, and we're collecting them. Well, it turned out that at the time we were with Alvin, that time, the way they had it is they had a prop on one side and a prop on the other side. So they had 2 props so they could turn this way or turn this way. Well, we were at the bottom and a big boulder fell off the wall and landed right in the prop on the right-hand side. Okay? And so the prop was stopped. We couldn't go that way anymore. We only had the one that goes one other direction. Well, we're down sampling these worms. Then all of a sudden, the chief pilot, who was piloting the thing, realized that she couldn't get out of it because we were in mud. And she couldn't get the sub to move. And so she started to rock it this way, rock it this way. She couldn't get the sub to move. And I said to her, well, what happens if you get stuck in the bottom? There's nobody to help you. What do you do? Well, we have this procedure by which we blow the sub apart, and the sphere rises to the top, and all the rest of it is left behind. And so that's the last resort. And I said to her, "Well, has that ever occurred before?" "Yeah, we really don't know whether it'll work or not, but that's the theory of what we're going to do."
Yeah.
Or you don't know if it's going to implode either.
Yeah. So we rocked it enough until it finally released, and now we're starting to rise up. And as we rised up, now we have the problem: how do you maneuver between these two big walls when one of your props is totally gone? And so we had
How
to
many
do
props
that.
are there? Just there are 2 props, or
Yeah, the two, and you had one prop, but the other one's gone. So you basically could only turn left. You couldn't turn right any longer. So we had to go up, and she had to kind of angle it this way a little bit to give her opportunity to go back this way, then angle it this way a little bit, and finally maneuver it up to so we got out of there. And again, that was a situation where nobody had that experience before, and we experienced it for the first time. So in both cases, the unknown happens, and you have to figure out how to make yourself to survive those things. Again, my wife said, "Well, why in the hell did you ever go out again?" And I did. So you had to have a lot of faith in people. But it was a great experience in my life, and I really, really enjoyed it. And there you're like a discoverer. You're like an explorer.
You're like an explorer.
We're exploring and we're discovering. And every vent you get to name the vent. Every sample that you get, the biologist who collects those samples gets to name that.
Did you name anything?
Ophelia.
Yeah.
Well, no, I did not.
Wow, those are incredible stories, Dick. And we're running out of time here today. So we're going to do another podcast the next time the 4 of us get together. And we'll be focusing on both Pat and Danny, and I'll ask them to tell some stories from their careers, their lives that they want to share in that second podcast. But this has been really, really, I think, very entertaining to listen to you, and it's just amazing what you've had to experience, which is so different than the rest of us. This guy has been given a Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, we're talking somebody who's had the most successful career probably of anybody I know and personally. So we're going to call it a day. I want to thank you all for watching today. If you have any comments, know that you can always call us and leave a message. That phone number again is 813-776-6774. I'll say that, 813-776-6774, or send us an email to tfeely@me.com. So that's tfeely@me.com. And I look forward to hearing you, and every so often we'll take some time to share those comments, whether they be good or bad. We'll share those comments with the audience. So keep those coming in. We really appreciate that. If you get a chance, hit subscribe. It doesn't cost any money. I don't want your money. Just hit subscribe. That helps us a great deal if you do that. Again, I want to thank all of you for being here. Pat, appreciate you being a part of this today.
You're welcome.
And Danny as well. Thank you very much. And especially congratulations, my brother, Richard, for the amazing career that you've had. You've got to be so proud. You should be so proud of your career, as the 3 of us are definitely proud of you and what you've accomplished.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay. And thank you for listening. We'll be back in next week with a new podcast, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you again then.
We are now going to turn to, if we haven't had fun yet, the really fun part of the evening, where we hear from Dick's family. And there are many members of Dick's family here, and I would like to acknowledge all of them. If you would all please stand up, we would like to thank you for creating this experience.
All right, let the roast begin. As a family, we spend 1 week in July together called Feely Week every year for the last 50 years. On Thursday night, we do trivia night. And I had a certain category on trivia night was You Don't Know Dick. And I was able to go through the archives and pick out the trivia questions over the years. So now all you can play.
You don't know Dick.
You don't know Dick. All right, so true or false? Dick won the Nobel Peace Prize. True, yes. 2, Dick won the Best Dressed Oceanographer Prize. He did not. Dick has been interviewed by Al Franken, which is a Minnesota guy, yeah. All right. Dick has been interviewed by Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. No, he is not. All right. Dick played himself in a movie. That's true. That's true. He did. I don't know. Frazier, who's Kelsey Grammer, he's a Seattle guy, played Dick in a movie. No. While appearing in 3 separate documentary films on ocean acidification, Dick was seen speaking English, Korean, and German. No, he don't. No. Dick wrote a book titled Everything You Want to Know About Dick, but We're Afraid to Ask. No, that wasn't it. All right, this is a multiple choice question. A, Dick fell on his face during a presentation. B, Dick forgot to show up to a presentation. C, forgot PowerPoint slides. D, all the above. Or E, all the above on the same presentation. It is E. Okay, and this category is quotes. Who said that? Hey, I got an idea. Let's all take a family photo on the dock. And now, picture the dock collapsing and everybody in the water. That was Dick. Another quote. Don't poke the bear. Anybody? That's their kids. Their kids would always say that about Dick. Don't poke the bear. Another quote. At wedding receptions, he's at a reception, he gives a toast, but he uses ex-wife's name instead of the bride's name. That was Dick. And the next quote kind of follows that last one. It's, you fool. Anybody know who said that? Yeah, that was Terry. Terry said that. So, you might not know Dick, but if you do, you know a man with a great sense of humor, an unbelievable work ethic, and a tremendous love of family.
Hello, I'm Pat. I'm 2 years older than Dick. And I'm going to tell a story about when I was 11 and Dick was 9, and I was still 2 years older than Dick. before I do, in relationship to this story, I would like you all to remember during the story a certain word, special word that will come out at the end of the story, and that special word is patience. Patience, remember that word. So the story starts at the breakfast table, Dick and I eating cereal, and Dick says to me, Pat, when we're done eating breakfast, will you come out to the garage and pitch to me against the garage door so I can hit the tennis ball as far as I can? Something that we've done before. And I said, Dick, I will, except Mom asked me to wash the entire kitchen floor before I do anything. Now you need to know before I go on with this, just as a parenthesis, in that time frame, I had a passion of teasing Dick. And Dick had a passion of pleasing me. So it worked out really well. So Dick says, Pat, I'll help you wash the floor so we get done sooner so you can pitch to me. So I went and got the bucket, put soap in it, soap and water, gave it to Dick, and he washed the entire kitchen floor. And I put the soap and bucket away, and then Dick says, can we now go pitch and hit? I said, well, we can, except I have to mow the entire lawn, front and back, first. Dick says, I'll help you. So I go to the garage, get the lawnmower out, start it up, get it all started, and Dick mows the lawn front and back and sides until we're done. Then Dick says, as I put the mower away, can we now pitch and hit? I said, yes, we can, Dick, except Mom wants us to come and have soup and a sandwich first. We have to have lunch. So we go inside and we eat lunch, eat our soup and sandwich, and Dick says, now can we go pitch and hit? I said, Dick, my stomach is full. I've got to lay down for a couple minutes and rest. After that, we'll go pitch and hit. So I went to the den where the couch was, and I laid down. Dick went to the kitchen closet and got the baseball bat. He walked down to the den, walked to where I was sleeping, or about sleeping, and he hit me over the head as hard as he could, and he knocked me out. Cold as a cucumber. Without saying a word, Dick took the bat, walked it back to the kitchen closet, put the bat in the closet, went outside, went next door, and played with his friend Johnny. Patience. The moral of this story is, yes, you can have patience, but it only goes so far. If you will raise your glass, I'm going to make an Irish toast to Dick. Dick, someday you're going to be dead. And when that happens, may you be in heaven 1/2 hour before the devil knows you're dead. Amen.
That's what my family calls me, otherwise known as Tom. Just for perspective, I'm 6 years younger than Nick. And so that's kind of important because of what I'm going to tell you about. But let me be honest with you tonight. I've never heard the word ocean acidification so many times in my life until today. And I don't even know what it means. It's very intimidating being up here talking in front of so many incredibly intelligent scientists. And, you know, I've been awestruck tonight just listening to all of you talk. I spent my career as a guidance counselor and a coach over 50 years. So when Dick asked me to roast him tonight, I want to tell you I was thrilled. But I was also very concerned how I could keep it in 7 minutes, right? Which was what he told me at first. So I thought, I should use at least 2 of those 7 minutes to give him well-deserved high praise. Well, then, a few days ago, I was instructed that it was only 4 minutes. And so, Dick, I want to tell you I'm sorry that I had to cut out all the high praise. When I look back at my life with my older brother, Dick, I usually recall the times when he left St. Paul to go to Texas A&M to work on his degree. And so I moved into his bedroom, and I thought, he's gone. I'll never see him again. He's going to be a scientist of some kind. So I took over his closet, his clothes, his rackets, and most importantly to him, his brand new snow skis. They all became, in my mind, this is now mine. He's gone. Well, he came home from Christmas, and he had a different idea about those items of his. So we had a major fight over it. It was an epic wrestling match. Went on so long, and we broke so many pieces of furniture that my mom came up and broke it up by hitting us with a broom. So I vividly recall the second year he came home. Now this time it was a little different. He came home with this brand, not new, it was used, but to him it was new, a Ford Mustang convertible. It was the most beautiful car I thought I ever saw in my life. Emerald green. It was absolutely, I thought, magnificent. Now remember, this is December in Minnesota. It's really cold. And so that night, I came home and I found my brother Dick coming up from the basement with his arms loaded with firewood. And I said, "What are you doing with all that firewood?" He said, "Well, I have an emergency." He said, my car is freezing and I forgot to put antifreeze in it. And my gas line and my radiator are freezing, so I'm building a fire. I looked outside, sure enough, smoke was coming up through the hood. I said, "No, you're not going to do that." And he said, "Well, what would you do, smartass?" And I said, boil water. So we did. We boiled water, we poured it into the radiator, and sort of saved the engine block, but he fried all the wiring in the car. So he had to leave back for Texas at the end of Christmas vacation without his car. And he figured it was pretty much toast, so he asked me to sell it for him. And so when he was gone, I put an ad in the paper and managed to sell it for what he bought it for, which was $700. And then then I sent him a check for the money, as he asked me to, for $450. Well, that was 1972. I want you to fast forward 43 years. So all those pictures you saw of his career and the stories you've heard now, that's just happened, and the year is now 2015. And to put it into historical perspective, for me, that was the year that Tom Brady from the New England Patriots was suspended 4 games for Deflategate. He had deflated his footballs. You all remember that? I do. So that year, I was in an airport one day, and waiting for my flight, and I went to the bar and ordered a beer, and there was somebody next to me, and we got talking. Well, it turned out he belonged to an organization called NOAA, and he was an oceanographer. I said, "That's so coincidental. I have a brother who is also an oceanographer and works for NOAA." He said, "Well, what's his name?" I said, "Dick." He looked at me like, "Come on, man, you got to give me more than that." So I said, "Well, he goes by Dr. Richard Feely." The guy's mouth dropped open. And he looked at me rather condescendingly, and he said, "Let me explain this to you. You're a football coach, so let me explain to you in terms that you'll understand. Your brother is to us in the scientific community, especially in oceanography, what Tom Brady is to football. So then he got up and left. And I said to the bartender, why would he tell me, and he works in the same organization, why would he tell me that my brother has deflated balls? So the bartender said to me, I think what he meant was he's the GOAT. Dick, raise your glasses, everyone. It says in Timothy chapter 4, verse 7, you have fought the good fight. You have finished the race. And you have kept the faith. Dick, congratulations on an amazing career. We are all better. Our lives are all better because of your life's work. Thank you.